So today we're going to be making some bread. The first thing you need is some warm water and some sugar mixed in. Then you add the yeast on top. This is about a tablespoon. So you set that aside and leave it to proof. Then we're going to get 3¼ cups of flour. So you can use all-purpose or bread flour, doesn't really matter. Pinch of salt. Give it a quick stir, and after that you're going to add 1½ tablespoons of margarine or butter. If you're using butter, it has to be softened. And after that, you just have to mix it in. And the way you do it, it's kind of like you're counting money. So you kind of just move it in between your fingers until it's mixed in. So the flour should end up looking like coarse meal, if that makes sense. By that point, your yeast should have finished proofing. So there should be a thick layer on top of the liquid, which you can see falling out there. I hate the feel of wet, like dough, so I'm using the handle of a wooden spoon, which works really well. It works like the dough attachment on a mixer, just until it's combined, and then I'm going to use my hands and just mix it together. So we're going to start using our hands to mix everything together. It has to be the same texture or consistency. And if you're seeing that there's a lot of flour left back like mine, so you can see there's a bit of flour at the bottom, just take out the bulk of the dough, so what you have mixed together, and put on the counter. And then you can add just a little bit of water to the flour that's left in the bowl, and just add that on top of the new dough. So now that everything's on the counter, you're going to start kneading. So you want it to be smooth. You can see it's not very smooth. Parts of it are kind of sticky. So you're going to keep mixing. You don't need to add any more flours yet, unless you mix in for like a couple minutes and it's still sticky, then you might need to add some flour, but right now you just need to keep mixing. So you knead it for about 5 minutes, and then it should start getting a bit more smooth. And then you kind of form it into a ball, as round as you can get it. It doesn't really matter. Then you just put it back in the bowl and you cover it. And this part you leave it for about an hour. After about an hour, it should be ready to shape. So you see it's about double the size or triple the size that it was when I put it in. So this part you're going to want to flour your work surface, and you need to punch down the dough. I don't know, you can pretend it's your ex or something. Then you take the dough and put it on the floured surface. If the bottom or the top is kind of sticky, it's usually the bottom that's a bit sticky. You just make sure that part gets floured, and then you start kneading it again. You just need to knead it until it's no longer sticky and it's like a smooth consistency. And now you need to cut it into about 3 pieces. I'm using a dough scraper, but you can also use a knife, or you can even just pull it apart, whichever is easier for you. So you're going to want to lengthen each piece so that it's long enough to braid. It doesn't have to be too neat because you need to put it to raise again. So you can start by squeezing out the thicker parts, and then I kind of use it like a skipping rope, and it lengthens pretty quickly with not much effort. So just do that until it's long enough that it fits in whichever pan you're using. I'm using a cookie sheet, so mine need to be fairly long. Once you're finished with all 3 pieces, you can add them to the cookie sheet or wherever you used to bake in it. You can start by squeezing the tops together, not too tight because you're going to have to undo it in a minute, but just squeeze the tops together just so it holds together while you're braiding the dough. You can flat it over or under, whichever one you'd like, but once you turn it around to do the side that's not really done, you have to do it the opposite direction. So this way I'm doing it over, and once I flip the pan around, I'm going to finish that side doing it under. And once you get to the end, you can just squeeze it together and tuck it underneath the rest of the loaf. So at this point, you flip it around and you undo the part that you kind of stuck together at the beginning, and then you just finish braiding this side. And same thing, once you get to the end, you just squeeze it together and you tuck it underneath the rest of the loaf. At this point, you can turn the oven on and preheat it to 350, and you can just leave the loaf on top of the stove as the oven is preheating. After about an hour, it should have risen some more, and then you can put it into the oven for about 18 to 20 minutes. And then once you take it out, you can brush it with some butter or margarine.